Hi, everybody.
Hello, everybody. Hi, everybody. We are here today. I'm so excited for everybody joining us. We are going live with Amanda Clark. She is
Did it just freeze? Yeah.
a dear friend of mine that I met. Had so many fun things that we've done together and shared together. Um, she's been a wonderful friend. Amanda, tell you a little bit about Amanda. I mean, like she has over 30 years experience
Mm-hmm.
as being a dietitian. She has a Bachelor of Science in nutrition and post diploma in dietetics and nutrition. She also is the owner of Great Ideas in Nutrition, which is some of you may have heard of Portion Perfection, which she has her own little plates. And we're going to be kind of talking a little bit about that and how that kind of fits into portion control. And she's also the recipient of two national awards for her ideas, including the Dietitians Association of Australia's Innovation Award. So, with that being said, a lot of you already know me and Brittany. We're on these calls
Mm-hmm.
weekly. I'm a nurse, bariatric nurse. Brittany is my cohort, helps me with making sure that everything runs smoothly. She has a lot of knowledge with bariatrics as well, and she is one of our account managers. But with all of this being said, I'm just going to kind of turn it over to Amanda and let her say hi.
Hi, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here. It's great to see you, Brenda. It's great to meet you, Brittany. I've been working with colleagues in the US for probably 6 years now, but I've just loved my time. I love America, and you guys are just great. Yeah. So thanks for having me. It's a day later here, so I'm a day closer to Christmas and much to be done. So thank you.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time, especially so close to the holidays for us. We really appreciate that, and we love having you. I can't say that I love Australia because I've never been, but I'm sure I would.
You must come.
Yes, I would love to. Yes.
Yeah, you must come in your winter because it's summertime here.
Oh yeah, Brenda, maybe we can go.
I know it's on my bucket list. I told
It's on
Amanda
mine
that
for sure.
yes, she can come to America and stay with me, and then she said I
Yeah,
could
come
come over here and
visit.
stay with her and visit, and it'd be a lot of fun. So we're looking forward to doing some fun things like that in the future. And um, Amanda, tell us, I mean, I kind of did just a brief introduction. Really, it did not do you justice because there's so many things going on. Like you just amaze me with all of your ideas and all the things that you've implemented. Tell us what your day-to-day life is like and a little bit about like your company that
Yeah,
you
sure.
stand for.
Well, I run a clinic, so I just consult 1 to 2 days a week these days. But I realized really early in my career that it was really important to figure out how to show people what to do. That, as a dietitian, giving people words and giving people lists of foods only went so far. And so I started taking photographs of some of my own food as a discussion point. And that was when I could really see a light bulb moment for my clients because they were going, oh, that's what you wanted me to have. That's how much you're talking about. And so from there, I've really focused on developing visual tools to be able to show people what to do. And even better, when they can actually take the tool and use it themselves, because, seeing things and doing things really leads to a deeper and richer understanding and just that accountability that you're getting it right. So that's what I've been working on for probably the last 15 years of my career.
Yeah. So let's start in here too. Like our topic today is portion perfection with adding in some holiday tips. And I know that you have lots and lots of good stuff here to share. Like, what are some of the common barriers that people face when trying to buy, cook, or prepare their own healthy meals, would you say? You kind of touched on that a little bit with taking the pictures and like making things more visual, because sometimes people are just really visual with
Yeah,
that. And you work
I
with
think
clients
there's,
every day, so they
Mm-hmm.
probably they tell you what they need.
yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of things that impact what we eat. A big part of what impacts what we eat is what we ate yesterday and the day before and the day before. We think we're in control of what we decide to do today, but
Mm-hmm.
we're really influenced by our past. So the best way to make that work for you is to create a new past
Yeah.
and start implementing it now so that in the future, that's what's influencing your behavior. Do you feel that?
Yeah.
Oh, I think so, because I think that was one of the biggest struggles with me. I mean, I had weight loss surgery, Amanda knows, back in 2013. And for me, you're in the beginning, you're implementing new things, but in order for them to stick and for you to be able to be consistent, sometimes that's where the holding point is. I mean, like
Yeah.
it has to be something like a lifestyle change that you do day to day to day, as opposed to just a 1 day thing or a month thing or a year thing. It has to be things that you learn day to day to be able to be consistent with.
Yeah, I think something else that really impacts what we do is what the people around us are doing, what
Mm-hmm.
our family and friends are doing. They say that you're the average of the 5 people or something that you hang around with, and your eating habits fall into that as well. So one thing you can do there, sometimes you don't want to trade in your friends, but what you can do is be the influence. If you're aware of that, then you can deliberately do things, and that will have a positive influence on your 5 friends or the people around you. So that's something that's pretty useful. The Now being the holiday season, um, what we've done at the holiday season kind of has a separate impact. Yes, we're influenced by what we did yesterday and the day before, but we might have been following a really healthy diet or something, and then Christmas comes and we just start behaving differently. We start behaving like we did as a child at Christmas,
Mm-hmm.
and we want all the treats, and it's hard to maintain your usual behavior. But again, for any behavior change, just awareness can be really helpful. And it's really
Mhm.
important not to feel blamed. It's not your fault that these things are coming into your mind. But I would encourage people to see themselves as a self-experiment. So, we all are beings, and we all have our histories, and those ideas are going to come back into our mind and influence what we do. But being aware of that gives you a little power to go, wow, I'm really seeing that I'm drawn to those things that I always had as a child. Let's see what would happen if I didn't have them this year. We're not going to implode. What is going to happen? What would be the outcome? Do we feel really bad, or do we actually end up feeling kind of empowered? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. I think so too.
Um,
What sort of
so
things do you think will drag you back at Christmas? What are the habits that come from your childhood?
Mine is that there's just so many, like you said, treats. I don't even want to say desserts because it's not just as, it's like, cookies, cakes, pies, all of it. And my family, we treat it as like its own little like second meal almost. It's not just because it's one thing to treat yourself, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, and deprive yourself, but there's also a fine line. And I think that's kind of what Brenda was saying earlier, is that it's hard not to eat a bunch when there's so much in front of you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the evidence is, well, actually, there's a few things. The evidence is the more variety that's on offer, the more food we put on our plate.
Mm-hmm.
And the evidence is the more food that's on our plate, the more we're going to eat. And it just makes sense, doesn't it?
Yes. And that was worded perfectly. I couldn't say it that way, but that's exactly it.
Yeah. So what we want to do is take control of what gets on the plate in the first place, and just being aware. So recognizing, that there are 3 different desserts there, and instead of feeling the need to have some of everything, and that is universal, we would all feel like, oh yes, we'll have a bit of this, bit of this,
Right.
bit of this.
Yeah.
The better thing to do, I think, is to go, wow, which is the absolute best? Which am I going to choose? So treat it a little bit like an a la carte menu. There's 3 desserts on there. Never do we say to the waiter, I want a bit of all of them. We're forced to make a decision, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the way to go.
Erin.
So Amanda, I was just gonna do the same thing, Brittany.
Oh, go ahead.
I think we have a couple comments on our page here, and Tara says hello, by the way, and hello Tara.
Hi,
Hello
Tara.
everybody out there. We're so glad all of you guys joined us. I know this time of year is super busy for everybody. And we also want to say hi to Erin, because she's also written here, cookies, Oreo balls, etc. Don't want to hurt someone's feelings by saying no.
Yes.
Okay, that's a lovely point.
Yeah, and I also want to mention here, because I meant to mention it at the beginning, for anybody that sticks with us throughout the call, Amanda has graciously given us a little gift, and we want to share that gift with you guys. So we're going to be doing a giveaway here in just a little bit. We just want, so anybody that is able to stay with us, because not only will you get some really good ideas and pointers, but you're also going to hopefully get a little surprise here towards the end. Go ahead, Amanda. Tell us about what we should do whenever you have all of these, again, the options you were talking about, but also you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That's big with part of my family is Italian, and that's really big for the Italian culture. If you don't eat their food, it's like a slap in the face.
Okay. So, I guess everybody's got their own kind of cultural things to try and work around, but it's worthwhile noticing, does anyone manage to do it? And if they do, how do they achieve it? Mm-hmm. What are they saying? Are there some men who don't eat sweet foods, or, I suppose they could be women, but more commonly men are more likely to not like sweet foods, who just go, no thanks. So what I encourage people to do in this situation where people might say, oh, I made them specially for you, you must have one. I would suggest that you don't engage with the food. Don't look at it. Don't go, oh, they look so lovely, but no, I'm not going to have one, or anything that might enable somebody to have hurt feelings. You're not engaging with it. You're not saying, well, I'm looking at what you're offering me and I'm not going there. You're actually just looking at the person. You're just going, no, thanks, and continue your conversation. Just continue on like, this isn't an issue for me right now. It's like somebody offering you another drink. Sometimes making sure that you've still got, if it's alcohol, still having some alcohol in your glass might stop somebody from being able to offer you more. But if you drink it all and you've got an empty glass, they're more likely, or it's harder for you to say no. But if you just say, no, I'm still going on this, then, nobody can really take offense. I'd be interested to know from Erin whether there might be some value in that advice, in not engaging with the food. Just engage with the person and move on.
Yeah. Erin, let us know if that helped a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Or you'll have to try it.
And what do you two think? Do you think there's you could get away with that?
I think it depends on if the person is actually like putting it like right in front of you or asking you. I think that if you're moving into the room and and nobody's doing that, I think that that's perfect. I think it's perfect. But I know sometimes people will, like, let's say you're sitting around a table and it's passing around food and they're saying, here, take this. Sometimes it's a little bit more taunting. And for me, I just say I only can eat so much. My
Hmm.
stomach's, sometimes if you feel like sharing, you have bariatric surgery, sometimes I'll just say I only can have so much, and this is all I can eat. And so I might take a little bit more here in a little bit if that's okay. You can tell them you might be able to try it later, but I don't know. But you're right.
There's
I
an
think engaging with the food really is helpful, not to do, like, just to stay away from it.
Yeah,
That's
I
the biggest
agree.
thing.
I
Yeah, so
agree.
even if somebody's got the Oreo balls kind of right in your face, just just don't look at them. Just look at the person. Just go, oh no, thank you. And
Hmm.
you're probably in a conversation or doing something at that time, so just return to that. It would be very difficult to take offense, I think, um, as a host if somebody just says no. I'm busy, or I don't need that right now.
And like you said, if your plate is already somewhat full and we usually tell our patients to take your time while eating anyway. So if you still have food on your plate, it's going to deter them from, you know what I'm saying? So kind of like what you said about the alcohol in your glass. It's the
Alcohol.
same thing for your plate. If your plate is still full, I feel like it's not as offensive to that person because it's like, oh no, thank you, I'm still working on this.
Yeah, that's an actual interesting point, because some people struggle with that component as well. And I can remember my grandmother had weight problems, and she would say that if there was a buffet, that it would be so sad for the person who put on the buffet if there was food left, and so she would need to keep going back to try and help the person who'd put the food on feel okay. But I think one of the ways to think about it is, if you eat everything on your plate, the host doesn't know whether they served you enough, if they have served it.
Hmm.
If you leave a little, they know that they served you enough. So
Yeah.
if you always finish your plate, the chances are that when you come back, I might serve you a bit more because I'm not sure if I gave you enough last time. And we could just see an ever increasing serve that I give you every time you come over,
Yeah.
if you always eat everything.
So
That's an
true. So
interesting
true.
point. Yeah, I didn't
Yeah,
even
I
think
never
about
would have
that.
thought about that.
Well, and in
Um,
in America, I feel like, and this might be in Australia too, I'm not sure, but I was taught that you don't get up from the dinner table until your plate is clean. And I kind of took that with me as an adult too. And even, when you go out to eat at restaurants, most of the time it's way bigger than one portion. Um,
hmm.
and that's why I feel like it's very common for people to overeat and not listen to their body when they're actually full, because there are these huge portions. And it's kind of, I don't want to speak for everybody, but for me, it was imprinted in my brain to finish my meal and eat everything. And I still am, I'm an adult. I still struggle with that, even with the holidays coming up. I do want to try a little bit of everything, but I have to remind myself that you don't have to eat everything that's on your plate.
That's right. You also don't have to have everything now.
Yes.
Usually with Christmas, there's leftovers. So maybe you have this selection. Sometimes there's several meats available, and certainly several desserts available. But, if you just choose the one meat, the one sort of carbohydrate portion, and some low starch vegetables, still makes a beautiful Christmas lunch.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm guessing that we follow a bit of an American kind of style eating, even though it's really hot here in summer. We love turkey. It's the only time really we eat turkey in Australia. It's Christmas Day, pretty much, um, with maybe roast potatoes, and we would have pumpkin. I guess you guys don't have pumpkin as a savoury vegetable. Maybe that's
Mm, I
what do you
haven't
call it? Butternut
seen
squash.
I haven't seen too many people, but I mean, I know some people that do like sweet potatoes and butternut squash, like different squashes are, I think, are a little bit more
Yeah.
popular than pumpkin, but
Yeah, and then then some broccoli, some cauliflower, those sorts of things, and some nice gravy. So that still represents a Christmas dinner, and in fact, you can feel so comfortable afterwards if yes, you're still having your normal sized meal. It doesn't have to be a large meal. It can just be the quantities and the types of food you'd usually have, but maybe they're done differently or they're different choices. And so one of the things to focus on is the atmosphere, the company, and the gifts.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, Amanda too, I think you hit it right on the nail with with choosing foods, like if you're just instead of choosing every single thing, choose the
Mm-hmm.
foods that you really want. And what I find myself doing is just taking a teaspoon, like, because really you just want the taste, the flavor. Take a teaspoon of whatever it is. It doesn't have to be a huge portion, it can be a very small portion, and you can still be really satisfied. With that, you can feel really good. The thing is I think one of the hardest things is overeating, because in America, a lot of times people will serve, and I don't know if you guys do this in Australia, but we serve appetizers before we serve the main course. And sometimes some of my Christmases over the years have even been focused on just appetizers. So
Yeah.
it's like a grazing type of thing where you're sitting, a lot of times you'll be sitting at a table or standing by a bar or whatever, and the portions are continuously in front of you, where unless you walk away, which may be one of your suggestions. I'm really looking for what you might say about overeating. You know, you're eating the appetizers, then you go in, you eat your meal, and then, later you eat a dessert. It's all day long for some people.
Yeah, for some
Yeah.
people.
And so what you need to do is get that time in there, particularly after bariatric surgery. You want at least 2 hours kind of between eating opportunities, and so you might be able to space that out a bit, but certainly there won't be space for dessert straight away, and so it really needs to be, I'm going to come back to that, or I hope I
Hmm.
can take some of that home or something. But I think it's really important to not feel obliged, not to eat for somebody else's benefit. Nobody else knows how much you need. Same thing when you're in a restaurant. You, although we're kind of primed to eat everything on our plate, everybody at the table gets the same size serve, and that serve is decided by the person in the kitchen,
Mm-hmm.
not by looking at who's sitting at the table. Are we a child? Are we a big man? Are we a small woman? So it's to do with our attitude. We need to see that, okay, this is how much they're willing to give me for the price, and then I get to choose how much of this I eat.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say eating mindfully is a really important thing to do in almost any circumstance. And eating mindfully just means paying attention to what you're doing. I think it's always a good idea to have a good look at what you're about to eat before you start. Notice how much you've got there. Think about how that amount matches your appetite. And then just notice what you've got and how it's presented. And it doesn't matter whether you like the presentation or you think the food's just been slopped on the plate and you could do a whole lot better. It's just some toing and froing between your brain and your eyes and your stomach, and just getting everything engaged to work for this moment. And so then smell the food. Notice the aroma. Can you tell anything about the ingredients from the way the food smells? And again, it doesn't matter whether you think it smells bad or it smells amazing. Either way, we're getting your brain on the job. So there's actually 3 things to do before anything goes in your mouth. It's have a good look at the presentation, notice what you've actually got there, and smell the food. And then with every mouthful, notice the texture. try to put a word to that texture. So is it smooth? Is it tender? Is it stringy? Is it tough? Whatever it is it crunchy? Try and decide what that word is. Imagine that you're a food critic and you need to write a report on this meal. What words are you going to do? And it just makes your brain hone in, really focus and decide, is it this word or is it that word? So then you want to notice the temperature and how that might change as you go through. So some foods, like a piece of fruit, maybe you think, oh, really doesn't have a temperature, but maybe it was in the fridge beforehand, and maybe you notice, gee, when an orange is kept in the fridge, the flavor is not quite so intense. And then as you go through the orange and it's actually not quite so cold, maybe you're noticing that tastes better. Or maybe you're eating a hot food and you're noticing as that cools down, at what point is this absolutely perfect? And then notice all the flavors. So sometimes imagine that you didn't see what you put in your mouth. Can you figure it out once it's in there? So what is the difference between turkey and chicken, or between chicken and fish? Is it just a texture thing, or how do you recognize that flavor? So that's how to slow right down and just enjoy the food. But I recognize sometimes it's difficult to do that because you're talking or there's other distractions. So wherever you can, get rid of those other distractions where you're in control. So if that distraction is driving, don't eat while you're driving. If it's watching television, switch off the television. If it's people at the table, don't switch them off. Maybe see if you can talk about the food, and that kind of serves your purpose. Talking about the way the food looks or the way the food smells actually has a positive influence on everybody because it draws them into eating mindfully as well. What do you think about that for Christmas? Can we do anything with that?
Yeah. And that's one thing actually that I was wondering what you were going to have to say about that, is because it's right. It's all about the presents and not like people's presents is what I'm saying, not the presents not the presents under the tree.
Well, the other ones we too.
But and part of that is conversation, and I feel like a lot of dinner is had over conversation, and that is, you're right, it can go into two different ways. For me, I'm always the last person eating because I'm really actively listening to what they're saying, but then I also find that I overeat too, so it could go that way too. You're not paying attention to the cues that your body is telling you that you need to stop, that you're full, because you're so involved in really everything. I mean, people play games, we do a gift exchange in my family, and people have plates of food and we'll be playing games, like passing gifts around. It gets pretty hectic and it's hard to concentrate in a way.
I like to do that too. I think it's a really good way to kind of stretch out the eating because, I guess in Australia, often we will have Christmas lunch, but people are still there at dinner time. So then you kind of pack away the food and then you pull it all back out again. But if you could just make that one kind of meal last the whole day by having a break, a decent break between courses, like opening the gifts or having a game, going for a walk together. Well, maybe that's easier in Australia. I don't know if it's too cold where you are, but here, we're right near the beach, so heading over to the beach for a while, coming back for dessert. But I think one of the key things to do if you're in control, and we've still got a few days where you could take control of this, is to control how much food you have on the table, because that influences everyone again. The more that's there, the more people will eat. In fact, the bigger the bowl of roast potatoes you put out, the more people will serve themselves. Or the bigger the serving spoon in there, the more people will serve themselves, because all of these things send us kind of unconscious messages about what's normal or what's expected. And as we've seen from Erin with the Oreo balls, we like to do what's expected. It makes us feel comfortable that everyone's okay with us.
Mm-hmm.
So where you've got some control, maybe you could actually reduce the pressure, because you can bring out leftovers. If everything goes, maybe you could bring out more then, rather than have everything on the table. If you sit at the table for many hours after the meal, people will automatically just keep reaching for more, because
Right.
the cue is, there's food here, it's a buffet, serve yourself some more. So we need to remove the food from the table. And you are doing people a favor by doing that. The food's still there. If they really want it, they can get it.
Yeah.
You can put some cherries on the table or something for anyone who still needs something. But I'd also caution you to think about how many serves of dessert you're preparing for the number of people who come. And so often when I see clients, I'll say, okay, so what's on for Christmas? And they'll say, oh yeah, this and that, this and that. And for dessert, we've got cheesecake, we've got pavlova, which is a common Australian dessert. And then we've got pudding, and of course we've got some Christmas cake. And I'm like, okay, so how many serves are there in this cheesecake? And well, there's 10 people coming. So, the cheesecake will serve 12, and then, there's 12 serves in this. And, we end up with like 65 serves of dessert for 10 people.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's not going to be good for anyone. You feel like you're doing, an amazing thing, but, everyone's up asleep on your couch, or going home uncomfortable or regretting, and then we end up there at New Year thinking, right, I have to undo this.
Mm-hmm.
I think the evidence is that the average person gains 2 kilograms at Christmas, or what's that, 5 pounds, 4 pounds at Christmas, and doesn't lose it. So that's how we step up every year. What do you think of that?
So one thing I wanted to say, Amanda, when you were talking about, like intuitive eating and mindful eating, is sometimes I put things on my plate, and if you are using all of your senses that you mentioned, like even so much as even checking the texture, the temperature, all of those little things, they add into how you feel about the food. One thing that I think is really interesting, and I've caught myself trying to do, is if I take a bite of something and it's not something I absolutely love, it's like, okay, do I really want to put my calories into that? Sometimes I'll just kind of bring it to the side and think, you know what, I'm not going to finish that. That's all I needed, just to have a taste of it. Sometimes you don't have to have the whole serving, even if you've already put it on your plate.
Yeah.
You think that you thought that you wanted it, but sometimes the weird thing is you put something on your plate and then later you don't even think you want it. And I also wanted to open up to the other people on the calls to see, you were asking Brittany and I also want to ask them, is there something that you struggle with over the holidays, or is there something that you found that's been really helpful too? So
Scotty's on the call too. She's with us all the time. We love Scotty. She said, I just wanted to say that I love Amanda's portion-controlled plates and bowls. They have been a huge help throughout my journey. So,
thank you so much.
Scotty
it's really nice to hear that people appreciate kind of the ideas I've had, and the work that I've done, and even from so far away from where I am. So thank you.
Yeah, and Amanda, I would love to, at this point, because I feel like it fits into this conversation when we're talking about portions and how that fits into making a plate. Now, whether they use your plate or they use another plate, would you mind kind of sharing a little bit about your technology and the reasons that you kind of did what you did?
Yeah.
Because I think that could fit into this holiday conversation. When people are looking at their plate and they're making their plate, how you were talking about earlier, contributing, this portion of your plate being vegetables, this portion being protein. I mean, those same things can apply when making a holiday plate as well.
I agree, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, how about I share my screen? Because if I show you the different kind of tools I've developed, I can tell you why I've developed them, and how they came about. Just let me find the right spot. me get out. Actually, I might need to. Can you see that okay?
I don't see anything yet. Brenda, do you see it?
Yeah, not yet. I saw it for a second and then it disappeared.
Okay, let me try sharing again. Do you see that?
Yep.
Yes.
And if I do that, do you see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right. So this is the range of tools that I've developed, and I've developed them over, I think I developed the plate back in 2004. So you'd know there's a lot of, I guess, copies of the plate now. But I think what I've done actually incorporates several messages, which I think some of the people who have just produced a small plate don't actually recognize. Mm-hmm. So this is the bariatric plate, and it's aimed to convey 3 messages. The first is nutritional balance. So there we've definitely got half the plate being protein. And as you know, we've got a defined need for protein. So we've got the same need for protein after surgery as we had before surgery, but now we've got this really small stomach. And so therefore everything becomes very protein focused. And that's one of the reasons why I do recommend people use a protein supplement, like a protein water or something that's fairly low in calories, so that not all the food has to be so protein focused, because we still need those other components of food, particularly the vegetables. We need a bit of everything. So it enables you to have a more balanced approach, but still having half of your small plate as protein can give you, if it's meat-based, it'll give you about 20 to 25 grams of protein. And if it's a vegetarian protein source like chickpeas, then we might only be getting about 12 to 15 there. But that's a good rule of thumb. Half protein and the other half either salad or low-starch vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, carrots, beans, zucchini, cabbage, all of those sorts of vegetables. And if you are to incorporate some carbohydrate, just making it the small component. So this just represents it's optional. Probably changes this from a 200 calorie meal to a 250 calorie meal, but all still quite appropriate and a small amount of fat to be used in the cooking. So with this plate, when you fill just the base of the plate, 3/4 of an inch deep in the middle, it holds 1 cup. And 1 cup is that ideal volume to maintain the satisfaction that you get as a result of bariatric surgery, because it stops you from stretching that stomach pouch. Mm-hmm. The second aspect is portion control. So that is the 1 cup that I've just mentioned. And the third aspect is the mindful eating. So around the bariatric plate, I've got a few extra prompts here. And the first one is to note your sitting position, that you want to be sitting upright, because if you're sitting on the couch or you're slumped in the chair, you actually put pressure on your stomach, which creates a bit of upward pressure up your esophagus. So you're more likely to get some reflux or regurgitation or feeling as though food's getting stuck partway down. So we want to kind of open up the area and enable the stomach to be clear and able to accept that food.
That's interesting. I had never thought of that before. So thank you for sharing that. I mean, it makes sense though, and I can't believe I never thought of that before, because I am one of those people that hunch over. So I'm trying to be really better about my posture and how I sit and everything.
Yeah, it can really make a difference to just how comfortable you feel. Then we've got thinking about when you drink. So for certainly a sleeve and a bypass, You can probably drink up to fairly close to before a meal if it's just water, because it's thin, it's going to go straight through. It's a bit like pouring water into a funnel. If you pour it in fast enough, you can make it overflow, but basically it's going to go through. But once you have the food, once you put a cupful of food in that stomach, if you then add a cupful of liquid, well, then you've got 2 cups and you're stretching that stomach pouch. You also risk washing food through, and that's particularly a problem for bypass because you don't have that natural sphincter muscle at the bottom of the stomach. Things are more likely to fall out if they're liquid. So we want it to sit there, because that message of satisfaction partially comes from the tension in your stomach wall. So you've got that vagus nerve going from your stomach to your brain, and it's sensing that tension, that tightness, and it's saying, well, it's time to stop eating. And so then you start releasing the hormones associated with satisfaction. So if you wash food through too quickly, then it's not sitting there long enough for that message to go to your brain. The next thing there is to chop your food well. And that little circle at the base of the plate represents the size that all food needs to be small enough to drop through, because part of the role of your stomach is actually to grind up food. Your stomach is not meant to let anything into your intestine until it's liquid. And so as soon as you put a particle of food in your stomach that's bigger than about the size of the end of a straw, the response of your stomach is to try to grind it up. But after bariatric surgery, you haven't got much space to do that. So you want to at least help that along by chopping things fairly small rather than just relying on your teeth, because sometimes your teeth just squash things. And that's also something to be really careful about on Christmas Day. You know, sometimes when you're talking, you kind of put a whole lot of food in your mouth. Somebody asks you a question, you want to answer them, so you just chew a few times and swallow something that's too big, and that, you probably know, can come back to bite you.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So the next thing on the list is, I've called it nibble, and what I actually mean by nibble is take small mouthfuls.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because if you put too much in your mouth and you swallow a large amount, if you swallow an amount large enough to take up the full thickness of your esophagus, then you've got an air pocket underneath, and that air is being pushed down with the food. And you've got a really small stomach. So particularly with a sleeve where you've got the natural sphincter at the bottom of the stomach, you know, before surgery, that air would just have been pushed into the stomach. And maybe when the food finally got there, you might have felt the food go all the way down. And then once it gets there, you might burp or something. There's some redistribution of air. But with bariatric surgery, there's no space for that air. And so the air's being compacted and creating pressure. And that pressure is going to start to push back on the food. And you might find the food starting to move back up, or starting to regurgitate, or feeling like it's getting stuck. So the next one is taste. And that goes back to all the things we've just talked about. It actually goes to presentation, variety, aromas, textures, temperature, and taste. That's the trigger message for that, or the prompt. We obviously need to chew really well. We need to pause between mouthfuls. And I think a pause long enough for the last mouthful to have fully gone down so that you feel completely clear for the next one is a really good idea. You need to be relaxed at meals, because if you're anxious or you're under pressure or you're in a rush, you also have some upper body tension. And that upper body tension is also putting pressure on your stomach and creating that upward pressure back up your esophagus. So also a problem for good food tolerance with bariatric surgery. So slow right down, follow those things. If anything goes wrong, you know, we are a self-experiment. look back to this and think, okay, is there something here that I didn't do? And next time, how can I make that happen more smoothly? Is that useful?
Absolutely. Amanda, I've been around you forever, and I knew
Mhm.
that I knew what your plates were like. I even had a set of them myself, but I didn't really think about the words around the plates. So I'm really
Yeah.
glad you went through that. It just makes you think and helps you to really be like thinking through that whole process whenever the whole mindful part is where it really helps at. And I have some videos. Is now a good time to show one of those?
I think so.
Yeah, sure. So that
I have,
the video, I guess, takes a walkthrough of the products, and that might be more useful than going through the slides. In fact, and then I can see the chat. So I'll stop sharing my screen, and I'm back.
okay. So actually, I'm going to first show the one that kind of shows your products is what I'd like to do, if that's okay. So I'm going
Sure.
to go up here. Can you guys see my screen okay?
Yeah.
The Portion Perfection Bariatric Plate.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to push play here. And can you, I'm going to pause it. Can you hear the sound?
Mm-mm. I can't. Can
Okay,
you, Amanda?
No,
I'm
No.
going
it's
to
only
stop
music
sharing.
though.
Okay, I'm going
It's
to try it
okay.
again. I'm going to actually try it again though, and I'm going to try to see.
It was
There's
kind
a
of
button.
going. It
I
was kind
found the
of.
button. I'm so excited where I can share the audio. So now we should be able to hear the sound. So here we go again. Okay. Could you
Okay,
guys
there
hear
is
it that
actually.
time?
I think there's also a version of that on our website that then has a lady going through the day, kind of using the tools. So what you saw there was you saw the plate. The bowl just has cup measures on the inside, and if you like, I'll just reshare that those pictures.
Could you hear the audio that time just out of curiosity?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
could.
it was
Oh,
just
good,
music.
good. That makes me feel a lot better.
I think this is where I am. And yeah.
And Tara
So
says, thanks for sharing too. She's happy that you're sharing and she was able to hear too.
great. So the bowl has cup measures on the inside, and that just really helps as a accountability tool. It also means you don't have to measure things out. So, for example, if you're having breakfast cereal, you can just pour the cereal to the right mark in the bowl and then add everything else to it. Um, the book is a visual book. I'm sorry about the blurriness of that plate picture. But you can see how you'd make up your meal on the plate. So both of the pictures you can see of the plate have gone for all of the the half of the plate to be just salad. There's no carbohydrate there, but there could have been a little bit of carbohydrate if we'd chosen to. So the way the book works is I've shown all the different components that might make up a meal, and then the table. I don't know if you can see my pointer, but the table shows how many serves. Let's say we've got the protein section. It says to have 3 serves of protein. So you could have 3 times anything here, or 3 different things. For example, you could have both halves of the egg plus a quarter of a cup of cottage cheese, for example, and then half a cup of salad made up from any of these sorts of things. And there's room for one thing from down here.
And Amanda, I think probably one of the most helpful things here in your book that you have is portions, because nowadays, I think that's where people really struggle. Like, what is a portion size? what happens is you go to a restaurant or you go wherever, and the portion sizes are so distorted in America. I don't know if they're like that in Australia, but like literally I can go to a restaurant and order a child's meal and it be too much food.
Yeah, and often ordering the child's meal is not such a great idea unless it's got a healthy child's meal, because otherwise you're having, well, here it would be fish fingers or canned spaghetti or something like that, rather than a small portion of a healthy meal. So sometimes it's a good idea to order a meal and take a container with you, but ask them to put half the meal or whatever in the container before they serve it out to you, so that you can have that as takeaway. And that's a better food safe method than asking them to put something from the plate into the container. Some places won't do that because there's a risk of food poisoning, because some of your saliva has been transferred to the food on the plate, and there's a greater chance of food spoilage. And they can't guarantee that you're not going to leave it in the car for a long time, or that you've got a long way to go home. So at least not having having it put straight into the container is a good strategy. The other thing I want to point out here is that the numbers in the little blue dots are how many grams of protein there is in there. So it enables you to see kind of relatively what are the best choices.
Okay, that's great.
This is our 4-week weight loss menu plan. And so this is for people who really want a whole plan. Tell me what to have for breakfast, what to have for snacks, what to have for lunch. But it still enables you to modify the plan. So on the plan, all of the breakfasts are equivalent. So if there's things you don't like, just have something else. All the lunches and dinners are equivalent. And for the menu plan, it actually works with our general weight loss tools as well as our bariatric tools. So what I've done for each of the recipes is we've got a portion accurate photograph, so you know what you're aiming for. It tells you from the whole batch how many you need to divide it into for your serve, and it's got the nutritional information. So the bariatric one is always the orange because that's the color of my bariatric book. The one that's not for bariatrics is purple. So always the orange is right here. Then we've got the snacker. And so the snacker just has different size containers. Sometimes we manage to do it with the foods printed on the container. Sometimes we can't get those, and so we use a plain container, and we supply a chart that tells you for each size container what you could put in there that would create a 100-calorie snack, because that's what we incorporate into our sort of system, that all snacks are 100 calories. So, for example, in this top container, whether you put peanuts or Brazil nuts, the amount that fits in there is approximately 100 calories. But there's a whole list of different things that could go in each size container. So that's really handy for on the go. Yeah. Well, that's a bit close up. This is actually our wine glass. So the wine glass, just the line under the word perfection indicates the 100 calorie serve for red wine, white wine, or sparkling wine. And that's about 150 mils. So it's not necessarily a standard drink, which I think is important to know, but it's approximately 100 calories. And then this is our Bari Prepper. So it's for your meal prep, and it works just the same way as the plate. It's got the divided section. This is half a cup available for the protein, and then half a cup either for all low starch vegetables or with a little bit of carbohydrate. And the markings for that are on the bottom of the container. So it's quite discreet, but you can see through the top exactly what's meant to go into each section. And the chart tells you what belongs in each section. So what are free veg, what are carbohydrates, what are proteins. And this one has been a work in progress for several years, and it's just come onto the market. And it's our kit and carry. So it's our lunch bag, which has everything you need to take out. Now, this one is actually our non-bariatric. So we just saw the Bari Prepper. So you can buy the kit and carry as a bariatric one. I just didn't have a good image of it with the bariatric prepper in it. It's got the snacker in it. it's got this small-headed fork and spoon and a good spreader knife that's serrated, so it's good for cutting avocado or spreading avocado or cutting tomato. It's sharp enough to do that, but not sharp enough to poke into anything or be dangerous. It's got the ice brick, and then the only other thing that's not showing here is it's got a napkin. So good for if you get to eat outdoors or at a lunch table, you can set it out like a table mat, or use it as your napkin or as your tea towel once you wash up your container, etc.
So it's really helpful with all of these things. To me, are just helpful with being intentional, planning, having the right serving sizes, being the right amounts. And tell us, here you have your slide, how to find you. Tell us about that, and then I want to do our giveaway.
Okay, great. All right, so all of our products are on Amazon. So there's a store on Amazon. The store is called Portion Perfection. I'd love anyone to follow that store. But you can also just search Portion Perfection and you'll bring up some of our products, and then you can follow the link to the store. We do have our own website in the US, which is Portion Diet, but we recognize a lot of people like to buy through Amazon. And then I've got the link there for beyondbariatricsurgery.com. And that is a site that's associated with an online course that we've created. If you'd like to know more about that, a good way to start is we've got a free webinar series that you can access through that website. So you can register. It's an on-demand webinar, and the webinar is called The Truth and 3 Lies About Weight Management After Bariatric Surgery. So just some key things that I think is really important to know. And I've got my email address there if anyone wants to get in contact. So I'll just stop sharing so I can see your lovely faces again and I can see the chat.
Thank you so much for going through all that. I appreciate it. I mean, it wasn't necessarily our intention we want to make this as beneficial for everybody on the call. And I just feel like these tools are just so helpful.
They definitely are.
Yeah, like there's just so many, they can help guide a person with making the right choices, all of that. So what I want to say is, and Amanda right now, like on this live call, so we're going to be having gifts for people who are on this live call and those people who are on the recording. So if you're on our live call, we have a very small number right now joining us. We are going to do is we have enough of Amanda's given us a donation because we are going to be doing an upcoming live on a giveaway, which is going to be huge. It's a support group, and I'm going to share a link here. So if you're on the live call or you're coming in on the replay, this link is for you. It's our Crowdcast channel. It's going to be a support group in February on a giveaway for lots of other prizes besides just Amanda. Amanda's going to have she has a huge set of things that she's giving away on that.
Yeah,
so
she was very generous, you guys.
Absolutely. So even if you're on the live call, you'll have access to be a part of that. There's a link. Open it up in a separate tab. Register after this call. Be a part of that. She is giving away. She's giving away that lunch and carry kit. She's giving away some plates. She's giving away some food scales. She's giving away one of her bariatric books. She's giving away some bowls, some cups, all of that. But for those people who are right here live right now with us, what I'd like to do is send each of you one of her bowls and plates because we have a very small crowd. So if you're live listening, I have your email. You'll be receiving an email. Please check your email within the next 30 minutes after this call and let me know your address, and I will be mailing to you a how do you pronounce it? Melamine?
I say melamine, but I think you might say melamine in the US.
Melamine bowl and plate, portion size. So that you will be receiving from Amanda. It's coming from our office, but it's from Amanda. Okay, so that's a super big surprise. But also register for our giveaway that's in February, which I share the link You'll have access to, we have right now, I think 11 or 12 vendors that are giving away prizes during that giveaway. It's on self-care. So please be with us then as well. And Amanda, I want to kind of go back. So again, the way that you're going to win on this call is just by being present. I'll send you an email within the next 30 minutes after this call. You send me your email address and we'll get those shipped to you. Okay, that's how that's going to work. Um, and it looks like Scotty says, yes, I would love the lunch and carry. Oh my gosh, it looks amazing.
It does.
And Amanda, yes. So Amanda, so you can find Amanda's other products also on the web, on Amazon, and wonderful gifts. If you have a bariatric friend or family member,
yeah,
or for yourself, I mean, it's Christmas time. And then Tara has her email. Yes, Tara, I will get that. But I also, if you register, you usually register with an email. If your email is different from the one you registered with, you're welcome to post it here. The other thing I want to say is Amanda talked a little bit about her group. Amanda, the group that you're, the program that you're creating.
Yes.
Yes. When does that go live? Tell us when.
It is live now. So we launched that just a couple of weeks ago. So it's very new. So there's 2 courses. There's a course for people who have not had surgery yet or have just had surgery, and it just covers those 4 weeks, because I know that there are some people who don't have good support for whatever reason. Their surgeon doesn't have a dietitian, or they're not convenient, can't be accessed or something. So I just want to make sure that there's an option for people to be able to access the right information for early on. And then there's a 6-week program that helps you incorporate portion perfection and, a whole lot of other knowledge that we've got about bariatric surgery that I think is quite useful. So they're under the banner Beyond Bariatric Surgery. We've also got a Beyond Bariatric Surgery Facebook page and a Facebook group which is called Bariatric Surgery Eating, if anybody would like to join us there.
I'm putting both those, Beyond Bariatric Surgery Facebook group, and what was the other one?
Bariatric Surgery Eating is the group. Beyond Bariatric Surgery is the page.
Okay, Facebook. Oh, think I got them mixed up. The Beyond the Bariatric Surgery is a Facebook group, but actually it's a page, right?
Yeah,
correct. That's okay. If you just search
and then
it,
the other one
it.
is a group. I did post those below. Also, Amanda, do you have access to the chat box? Could you write down your site where they can go directly to look for your program that you're promoting? Because I'd love for them to have access to that as well.
Yeah, for sure. Perfect.
Thank you. That way, because they could have seen it on the video, but I also want to make sure that they have access to that. I'm going to be posting this. Our Facebook, unfortunately, our little Facebook link did not, for some reason, we've been having snafus with that. It did not go live there, but we're going to be posting this on our Facebook page, on our ProCare Health, and we'll be posting it on YouTube. We also post links on Instagram and LinkedIn. So we'll be sharing this for people who are on the replay. A lot of times we get a lot of replays on these, Amanda, with this. So if you're on the replay, you still have chances to win. Just do our other giveaway. Otherwise, those people on the call, look for an email. And I guess that's everything we have for today. I want to say thank you, each of you, for joining us. And Amanda, my heart swells. I wish I get to see you more often. We used to get to see each other so much more with all the conferences closing down. Everybody hasn't been traveling as much.
Yeah, I look forward to being able to travel again. So I want to wish you all a Merry Christmas, and to everybody in the chat, thank you so much for being here. It's been my pleasure to chat to you, and I hope there was some gold nugget in there for you that you can take away. Thank you.
Oh, 100%. And I know they're going to love their little gift too from you. Thank you so much for that, because you're going to be sharing with them all year long now.
Yeah, great.
Thank you. It actually, there was tidbits in it that really helped me too. The whole mindful
Oh
piece,
yeah, me
really
too.
just focusing on that. I
Mhm.
think set like a little bit of separation between your food and how to say no when somebody's
Yeah,
putting food right in front of you, walking away from it or moving away and focusing on conversation and the people around you is big. And I feel like those are some of the biggest things that'll help me this season.
I agree.
Great. So I think just remember that we're all a self-experiment. Maybe this is your experiment this Christmas, just to see what happens if you decide what you want to have and then you don't engage with anything else. You'll come back with some feedback and change it from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, well, thank you again. And
Yes, thank you. It was so nice to meet you.
Yeah,
and we
my
look forward
pleasure.
to more partnerships. Who knows where this is going to go? So,
Yes.
thank you, Amanda. You take care, and thank you everybody on the call. Look forward to seeing an email from me. And I'm going to also write my email down just in case any of you don't receive an email or check your spam, by the way.
Yeah,
But you'll have
definitely
my email to check in with me.
check your junk and
So
spam.
that's right. Okay.
Okay,
Happy
bye
holidays,
everybody.
everybody. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Enjoy. Bye, everybody. And bye, Amanda.
Bye.
Bye, Brittany.